It's time now to go beyond the headlines. And for the next 2 hours, go where every sports fan wants to go. Behind the scenes and into the practice facilities, locker rooms, coaches' offices, and press boxes to get the info before anyone else. This is the ESPN 1320 Insiders.
Yeah, it sure is. James Ham's there. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're hanging out with you till noon. Then we'll hand it off to D'Lo and KC, and they'll take you up to 4 o'clock right here on Sacramento's sports leader. So the De'Aaron Fox trade news. If you're listening to this show, I imagine you know that De'Aaron Fox has been traded to the San Antonio Spurs. But in the event that you've been living under a rock all weekend and you decide to just start consuming sports content at 10 a.m. on Monday morning, let's recap. De'Aaron Fox is being traded to the San Antonio Spurs along with Jordan McLaughlin. Sacramento is getting Zach LaVine, Sidi Sissoko, 3 first-round picks, and 3 second-round picks. We'll get into specifics later. And Chicago will be getting Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own first-round pick back from San Antonio. Man, we did a live stream yesterday with D'Lo and KC and you and me here on the ESPN 1320 YouTube channel. And salute to everybody who was in there. We appreciate you. YouTube.com/ESPN 1320 and Twitch.tv/ESPN 1320. I have two, there's like how I'm feeling, and then there's just kind of the reality of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to push the reality to the side because that's what I was trying to deal in yesterday. Of like, okay, this is just kind of what it is. So let's assess what the Kings look like kind of moving forward, and did they have a choice? And we'll do all that. But what this boils down to is the Kings traded the face of their franchise.
Mm-hmm.
They got no really premium assets for it. They did not improve their roster in the ways that it needs to improve with or without De'Aaron Fox.
Actually, I could make the argument that the need for defensive wings just got like tenfold.
They are. Yeah, I agree with you. The Kings today are worse than they were yesterday.
Oh, there's no question about that. You traded one of the best two-way guards in the league for a guy who's a great offensive weapon who doesn't play defense. Yeah.
So,
who's 3 years older and makes $10 million more a year
and has injury problems, or has had injury problems. He's on pace for 70 games this year.
Okay,
so fingers crossed he continues to stay healthy. And like I said, we can get into the semantics of should they have kicked the can to the offseason?
Mm-hmm.
Should they have not traded him to San Antonio? Should they have held out for something more? We can kind of get into all that, but I think just in a vacuum, what you're looking at is a deeply impactful trade for the fan base.
Oh yeah.
Let's just starting there. The amount of people who were either young people on Twitter who were like, "Hey man, I'm 19 years old. De'Aaron Fox has been the dude basically my entire known life."
Oh yeah, like I have a 21-year-old at home who's a huge fan, and De'Aaron Fox has been the best player on the Kings since he was 13.
Yeah. And the amount of people who have young kids who got De'Aaron Fox jerseys for Christmas, and people saying, "Man, my kid's in bed. I don't know how I'm going to tell him tomorrow." Like, dude, that's just like getting away from the basketball stuff. That's one of the worst parts of sports, man. And the fact that we got here with De'Aaron Fox, who on February 3rd, 2023, looked like this ascending superstar, untouchable piece of a franchise that was going to go to the playoffs for many, many years in a row, is now gone. And we can't even sit here and go, at least I can't sit here in good faith and be like, man, you know what? Like, I kind of see it. I kind of see what they were going for here. Because I don't. I beyond them thinking that it was not tenable to continue with De'Aaron Fox on the roster, given where things had gotten, and them looking at the pieces they have and going, well, don't want to completely tank out this year, so we're just going to make this trade now. That's such a minor plus, or minor, I didn't even know what to call it, excuse, win. I don't know, in the context of the massive loss that is trading your franchise player to get worse and to not acquire a premium asset to do so.
Yeah, and like the premium asset thing is, I think,
and I'm talking
one of the biggest things,
like unprotected picks from Atlanta, for example.
Yeah.
Where you have a chance that, man, that could be a top 3 pick pretty easily.
Well, I think my biggest issue is that it's that when you look at what they got and what the Spurs had in their war chest, like, you just gave a really good player to a team that's a couple of games behind you in the standings and is going to ascend, and you limited your ability to ascend, but you also did not hurt them at all in this transaction. There is no Stephon Castle. There is no Jeremy Sohan. There is no Devin Vassell. There is no 2025 or 2027 Atlanta Hawks unprotected picks. And somebody can say, well, this is the best they would give. And my response would be, then you probably should have just waited. Because if that's the best you can get, then I understand it. But you open it up to the entire league and you let another team roll the dice on whether they want to trade for De'Aaron Fox or not. The deal from the Spurs was not getting any worse, because what they gave you,
they didn't give you anything.
It wasn't getting any worse. And
go ahead. Sorry.
We can talk about like the semantics of the trade, but I think, like, realistically, I know people on social media like, hey, why are you being so negative? Why are you being so negative? It's like, I'm not being negative, but I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, like, this is not a sunshine and rainbows moment, man.
No. And
they traded the face of their franchise.
Yeah.
For Zach LaVine, who's not a bad look. And you said it earlier, Zach LaVine is not a bad player. It's not like they traded for some scrub. And that was Kenny's point yesterday on our live stream. That the Kings are going to still be able to put the ball in the hoop.
Oh,
This is not the Kings are going to suddenly lose. How many games do they have left? 35,
something like that.
They're not going to lose 25 of their final 35 games or anything crazy like that.
Yeah.
Like they're still going to be competitive.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where, like, maybe they looked and said, all right, the Warriors are hot on the Zach LaVine trail, and we really think that whether it's now or in the summer, this is the best player we're going to get, because the Spurs aren't giving us Devin Vassell or Stephon Castle, so we'll just pull the trigger now and get this over with, and see what else we can do. And we'll talk about other moves they could possibly make down the line here, but I just have a hard time sitting here at 10:09 a.m. on Monday, February 3rd. I have a really hard time stepping away from this going, actually, you know what? I see how this benefits the Kings, because right now I don't.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, look, Zach LaVine is a very gifted player, and he's actually having a phenomenal season.
Yep.
But there are red flags with Zach LaVine. First of all, he's almost 3 years older than De'Aaron Fox. Secondly, he has the contract that you were going to pay Fox. He's got that this year at $43 million, $46 million next year, and $49 the year after that.
That's a player option, right?
It's a player option, but
he's picking.
Bro, he ain't walking away from $49 million. Right. Then you start hearing, well, they could extend him this summer. Okay, you're not going to extend Zach Holmes this summer. Zach LaVine this summer. And the reason why you're not going to extend Zach LaVine this summer is because you have years to wait it out. And number two, he blew an ACL when he was younger, and he had foot surgery last year and played a total of 25 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's injury prone, in addition to the fact that he makes a lot of money, and in addition to the fact that that he doesn't play defense.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things. It's really difficult to like, look, he's going to have some moments here in Sacramento that you're just like, oh my gosh, Zach LaVine is so good.
Yes.
And he is a very, very good scorer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like the biggest plus for the Kings is we just watched what happened with OKC. The second that De'Aaron Fox stepped off the court, Malik Monk was having a great game. Him and Domantas Sabonis were getting the 2-man game. You know, bounce pass. Malik has 8 to 10 points in the first quarter. You're like, hey, this is super fun to watch. Soon as De'Aaron Fox stepped off the court, they switched their best defender on Malik Monk, and he turned the ball over 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality of what life without De'Aaron Fox looks like. And if you traded him for a bag of peanuts or just a bunch of draft picks and nothing else, then you would have had major issues that you could obviously see, right? But like, there wasn't a better option than Zach LaVine. I mean, this summer, there were rumors that the Bulls were willing to attach not 1, but 2 first-round draft picks to move Zach LaVine's contract. And it's not that he's a bad dude. It's just it wasn't working in Chicago. And last year, it didn't work in Chicago. The year before, it didn't work in Chicago with DeMar DeRozan.
Right.
And now you have him with DeMar DeRozan again, and now you're the Chicago Bulls West Coast style. And you can say, well, Domantas Sabonis is better, and Malik Monk, like, okay, that's fine. You can say whatever you want about like the subtle differences between the two teams.
Sure.
But the fact is that team didn't find success, and it's going to be very hard for the Kings to have long-term sustainability. And hey, here's the other thing. You can go back and you can listen to maybe 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, when I said very distinctly, ownership wanted Zach LaVine multiple times here.
Yep.
And the front office said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that to our franchise. Because what that means to our franchise is you're eating up like basically 30%, 40% of the salary cap on a player who is very limited defensively and who can do a bunch of things, but he's also hurt a lot. And I don't know what the exact percentage of games missed over his career, but at some point, that's another piece to this, that the voices that wanted Zach LaVine won out, and the voices that did not want Zach LaVine lost.
Yeah.
And adding to that, you really got very, very like minimal return draft capital.
That's, I think, that's the part I'm getting hung up on.
Yeah.
Is if they thought Zach LaVine, who turns 30 on March 10th, by the way, if you thought Zach LaVine is the best you're going to do, and he's a better shooter than Fox, and there's all these different things you can do offensively, and he's really good off dribble handoffs. Okay. I understand all that. But you mentioned it yesterday. That Charlotte pick is likely to convey as 2 second-round picks.
Oh, yeah.
And the Spurs, was it Spurs?
Okay, wait. We want to say likely. Just so you know, it's a 2025 Charlotte Hornets first-round pick that is top 14 protected. If somehow they make the playoffs and are not in the bottom 14 teams in the league, then it becomes 2 second-round picks, a 2026 and a 2027. Kyle,
from Charlotte.
You're looking up from Charlotte. You're looking it up right now. What is Charlotte's record right now?
Oh boy, Charlotte is 12-34.
That's 2 second-round picks. Again.
In fairness, they're only 7 games back of the 10 seed.
Yeah. Like
they're not making the playoffs. They're not going to the playoffs. You're getting 2 second-round picks.
Yeah, let's just be honest. This trade, again, it's about being intellectually honest with you. I am not going to lie to you and tell you that the Kings just got 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks.
Right.
What they got was 2 first-round picks and 5 second-round picks.
Right.
And we've seen what they do with second-round picks in the past.
And that is not. It gets worse, because you keep mentioning second-round picks are better than late first-round picks. The second-round picks aren't guaranteed, and we're seeing like Jonas Valanciunas now is available for a couple of second-round picks. Okay, like yes, this is now you're cooking a little bit. That's good to acquire those assets. We're gonna go over how they needed those assets to begin with, and just kind of how we got here with De'Aaron Fox. But okay, don't hate that. But then it's the Spurs 2027 first.
Yeah.
There's a chance the Spurs win the title in 2027
That's probably not going to be a good first round
they
pick.
figure to be very good. And then
Yes.
it's Minnesota in 2031. That, as far as an asset goes, it means you can trade it. There's no telling whether Minnesota will be good or bad in 2031. So it's just an asset to have. But that's just it. Is all of these are just assets to have. And I think the best thing you can say for what the Kings got back is, okay, well, now maybe they can go add some depth that they were missing using some of the draft capital they got. But still, even if you wind up with Cam Johnson and Jonas Valanciunas, that means you traded De'Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine, Cam Johnson, and Jonas Valanciunas.
It's tough.
It's
like the dynamics of trade too. We have to we'll get into that as we go through today. The dynamics of what a trade exception is and all of those things. We can get into how the Kings position themselves better financially in this situation. But also, in order for you to use that stuff in a positive way, it really has to happen right now.
Yep.
And if not, it becomes even more complex unless they have some trade hiding that we have no idea about. But this is it's not a good day to be a Sacramento Kings fan.
We've got a ton more coming up on the De'Aaron Fox trade. If you're on the line right now, I see you. If you want to jump on the Elk Grove Kia talk line, 916-909-1320. That's 916-909-1320. Would love to hear from you today. More on the De'Aaron Fox trade. We'll dig into the actual return. What did they get back? What can we expect from Sidi Sissoko? What can we expect from these draft picks? We'll talk about it all next. That's James Hammond, Kyle Madsen. We're the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. This is ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. Clear.
Let's see. Oh, this is a good question, Anthony. Does the 2025 Charlotte pick allow SAC to address the Stepien rule to access their future assets in first? Okay. No. Well, yes and no. As of right now, they can't trade their 2025 first round pick because it could be headed to the Atlanta Hawks. And they can't trade their 2026 because it could also be headed to the Atlanta Hawks. The 2027 is what does help you, because now you can either trade your own or you can trade the Spurs pick in 2027. So it opens up all of those picks. I would also I don't want to be petty and just shake my head, but the fact that you could do a deal of this magnitude and at a minimum not get your pick swap back from the San Antonio Spurs in 2031 is beyond me. To me, I don't want to say it's a deal breaker, but realistically it's hey, get your pick swap back. You're dealing with that team. Get your pick swap back. At least you would have that to say, hey, at least our 2031 is unencumbered.
Do you think they even asked?
I don't know, man.
Do you think the Spurs, if the Kings had gone, okay, hey, everything's all set. We need that pick swap though. Are Spurs no,
we won't do it. I don't know, man. You already shoveled the worst first round pick they have onto the Kings. The worst first round pick they had. The other crazy thing is to this, the Kings, there was this weird 2025 second round pick that the Kings had. You remember the one that's protected 31 through 55? So it falls in the last four. The Kings got the rest of the protections. They got that pick unencumbered now. That's one of the second round picks.
Sweet.
Good. So they didn't even get a full 5 second round picks. One of them, they already had the back end of that second round, which they would have never got that second round pick, but it's that pick. They also got their own second round pick back from San Antonio. Yeah. Sorry.
I have no idea what to do with underdog tonight.
Oh. Yeah, they can just tear it
25
up.
seconds.
It doesn't, yeah.
All right, guys. High times at KG just wants to move on. All right.
All right.
Now that Fox thing's out of the way. Here we go.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
That's James. I'm Kyle. We're hanging out with you till noon. I want to get to the phones. The Oak Grove Kia talk line's 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. If you're new to the program, hello and welcome. We don't have a call screener. Typically, there's like a producer who runs the board and does all that stuff. That's just me. And James, and it's just us.
And I don't touch buttons.
And James doesn't touch buttons. So we don't have a call screener. Like usually they go, hey, that's James, I'm Kyle. We got such and such behind the glass. No. There's nothing behind the glass until Jesse gets here and starts setting up for D-Lo and Casey.
It's really dark in there.
It's very, very dark. I should turn the light on. Should I get a stuffed animal to set in the chair?
I have a Clark Griswold blow up thing that you can put in your car next to you for
Hilarious.
Christmas.
That's great.
So you can drive your car and look like you have a second person in the car.
Yeah, set that in there so we can look like we have a producer.
Exactly.
But if you try and call the show, it might just ring for a while. If you get sick of the ringing, you can hang up and call back. But basically, I can put one person on the line at a time. We have Cy on the line as well, but that's because he called during a break, and I was able to go in and screen the phone call myself.
Oh.
So we have Cy here, and then we have Don. And if you hear Don, that means you.
Yes.
Because everybody's Don because we don't have a call screener to tell us who's on the line.
Okay.
So I'd love to hear from you on the Elk Grove Kia talk line, 916-909-1320. Before we get to those calls, though, because we do have a couple, I want to get to something that keeps coming up. This came up on the internet last night. I've seen it come up in the chatty house a few times. Please correct me if I'm wrong, James Ham.
Okay.
Of the Kings beat. He's covered the Kings for almost 2 decades now. The door wasn't closed on De'Aaron Fox returning to Sacramento.
Absolutely not.
Okay. I wanted that to be, because I keep seeing this sentiment that like, he was going to San Antonio anyway. Like, no, he wasn't.
No.
Not necessarily.
No, not only does he have a house here and his family here, but his wife, her family moved out. They live a mile away from them here in Sacramento. They bought them a house here in Sacramento, and they live here too. Like, they're settled in Sacramento. He's got friends. He's got friends that are family basically here in Sacramento. We all understand like there are ties deep here with De'Aaron Fox. He's been here almost 8 years. He showed up as like a 19-year-old kid, and he's lived a huge part of his life here in Sacramento.
And he reached the point that, okay, they go to the playoffs in 22-23. They don't fix the roster the next year. And now they're in the year 2.5. They're approaching the trade deadline. And he said, can I get a little help?
Yeah.
Can we do the right things to fix this roster? And the Kings then decided to trade him instead. So I don't buy the idea that De'Aaron Fox had 1 foot out the door, and he always has. And this was the only thing the Kings could do. There was no chance of him coming back. I don't buy that for 1 second. And I won't be operating. If that's going to be your thought process, that's fine.
Yep.
Just know that I don't believe that to be true. And so that's not the thought process I'm going to operate under. This was not a De'Aaron Fox went to the front office situation and went, trade me now.
Nope. It is not that. And like, look, Tom L here in the chat. He said, weren't you saying the team looked broken the last couple of games? I definitely said they looked broken on, was it Saturday when they played Oklahoma City and got just absolutely destroyed.
It was ugly.
They were broken. It was clear as day that, oh no, they're broken. That's because of this situation.
Right.
That, like we talked about, it's like a freight train was coming at you for 2 years and you didn't get off the track and you just got ran over. Straight up, you just got ran over. I like this was so avoidable. It was.
That's it. That's all.
Like just people think a freight train doesn't zigzag.
Not typically, no.
It goes straight, and to slow it down is very difficult, but like it doesn't move. It doesn't chase you. All you had to do is step to the side. All you had to do was go out and do the basics. Go add the pieces that everybody has been asking for.
Right.
And you still haven't added the pieces everybody asked for. It's still a major issue with size, athleticism, physicality with this specific roster. You did nothing, absolutely nothing to change that. And actually, in all honesty, you got worse. When it comes to that. And people who say De'Aaron Fox wasn't a good defender, De'Aaron Fox is a top 10 defensive guard in the league. Like, I don't know. He led the league in steals last year. That's not the only, De'Aaron Fox is a very good defender. Defending NBA point guards is virtually impossible.
It's really tough.
Just watch what De'Aaron Fox does to everybody else every single night. So.
No, he's a pretty good player. But if you were out on him and you're like, hell yeah, he's gone, salute.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, I'm not telling people how to feel. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 is the Elk Grove Kia talk line. Let's get to Don. Don, you're on the Insiders. What's up?
Ham, Kyle, what's up?
What up, TC?
What's up, TC?
Hey, what's up, bro? So, first and foremost, before I get started, I want to personally thank Fox and his family, bro. You know what I'm saying? I know you was a good dude, bro. And I want to send that. I wish you the best in San Antonio, and we move forward. As far as the Kings, bro, we got to strap our boots, lace our boots, and get up off the ground, bro, and keep it trucking. I don't feel like this trade was that bad. Like, James, I got to disagree on you. I love you, James, but I got to disagree on that. Like, LaVine swapped for Fox. Hey, we got LaVine. It wasn't like they called us and was like, you guys got Patrick Beverly, 3 seconds, 3-second swaps, and we got Zach LaVine, bro, and a couple first-round picks, and we got to make some more trades and keep it moving. Like, we don't have really time to cry over sport milk. I wish Fox the best, bro, but we got to keep it trucking, him. That's all I got.
Thanks, TC. Appreciate the call, man. Yeah, man, that's one of the that's one way to look at it. Like, it could have been worse, I guess.
Yeah, but you shouldn't live in a world where it could have been worse. Is the other answer.
And the other thing with this is, to TC's point, like, at some point we got to move forward, because the Kings have a game tonight, and then they have another one, a home game at Golden One Center on Wednesday. So at some point we got to talk basketball again. And I think once we do that, and once we see Zach LaVine on the court, and maybe there's additional moves the Kings make, maybe we get to the end of February and we're like, oh, okay, like this is not as bad as it seemed. Because I mean, frankly, that was kind of the Mike Brown situation for me. When Mike Brown got fired, I was like, they're toast.
Oh yeah,
like they might finish below 500. And then they won 11 of 16 under Doug Christie.
Yeah, they're 11-6 since Doug took over. So
11
out of 17. Yeah.
So right, they're like, oh man, it looks a little better. So maybe I'll be proven wrong again, and this all works out in their favor. But today, where we sit now, it doesn't look great.
No, and like we always talk about, like, they need more rotational pieces. For as bad as Kevin Huerter was over the last year, you just lost another rotational piece. The Kings dropped not only De'Aaron Fox, but Kevin Huerter. And so now, again, their top 9 guys is down 1 guy. And in order to make a move, you might have to give up another 1 or 2 guys to make that trade work.
Sure.
So it's complicated, right? Like, this isn't like Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And you're hoping that they can continue to build something here. But I just have a tough time. Again, I can look at Zach LaVine's stats, and he averaged 24. He's averaging right now 24 points, 4.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He's shooting 51.5% from the field and 44.6% from three.
Pretty good.
He's an elite 3-point
And you can
shooter.
just watch him. Like, he is a bucket.
Oh yeah, and the way he scores most of his 3-point shots, like 16% of his overall shots come as a catch and shoot 3-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Like 26% come as an off the dribble 3-point shooter, and he shoots like 46% on those.
Yeah.
Like, he's a very good creator for himself, and he's not a bad creator for himself. He's also a lot more efficient as a scorer this year, 51.1% from the field, than Fox is, right? So better shooter than Fox, better, more refined offensive game. Really, it's not a lot of dribble drives. It's not a bunch of pull-ups in the lane. You will have some athleticism. I mean, again, Zach LaVine was in multiple slam dunk contests. I'm not sure if he won one.
Yeah, he did. He had the iconic one with Aaron Gordon.
Oh,
Aaron Gordon should have won if we're keeping it a stack.
Yeah.
I don't want to relitigate that.
Yeah, so like that's not the problem. The problem for me is that he's 3 years older, that he makes 43, 46, and 49 million over the next 3 years.
There's a long-term problem more than a short-term one.
Well, yeah, and also that he blew his ACL at one point, and that he broke his foot and had to have foot surgery last season. Like with guards, especially athletic guards, the things you don't want are knee problems and foot problems.
Sure.
He's had both.
Sure.
And so those are some of the issues. And again, I think he can play. I'm not saying he can't play at all. I think he's a very dynamic scorer, but he also doesn't play defense.
916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 is the Elk Grove Kia talk line. Cy, thanks for holding. You're on the Insiders.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man.
So I agree with James for the most part. I don't think we got enough back in the deal, and it's like all the Spurs gave us is 2 firsts and 5 seconds. That's ridiculous. I don't even understand, why couldn't we have gotten LaVine straight up for the Bulls when you look at what they got from the Spurs? But I want to move on from that, and I like LaVine, but I think we should have got more. But I want to go at my issues with the way the Kings have been ran since Vivek took the team over, and I want to look at the GMs that they've had.
Okay.
D'Alessandro, Vladi, and now Monty. And I've noticed a repetitive kind of trend. So D'Alessandro, he fires Mike Malone. They both get hired in Denver. How does that happen? Then Vladi, he passes on Luka. And now Luka's going to Vladi's original team, the Lakers. And then Mike Brown started out with the Spurs in this league. And when I look at I didn't think he should have got Coach of the Year. And I think we lost to the Warriors because of Mike Brown's coaching. He wouldn't take Herter out. Herter shot 6 for 39 that series. You could say Herter's shooting is the biggest reason we lost. I would also say Sabonis did 0 boxing out that series. He got destroyed by Looney on the boards. Mike Brown would call no timeouts. He would make no adjustments. He wouldn't make the lineup bigger. He wouldn't do anything to change what we were doing wrong and to stop the Warriors from what they were doing. And it appeared to me he was doing everything to help his former team come back and beat us after we were up 2-0. Reading his body language, looking at the decisions he made, it was obvious to me. And the team has only gotten worse since under Mike Brown. That's why I was happy he got fired. I thought he should have been gone. And I believe he's been working to sabotage this team all along. And I believe that everybody the Kings hire has been sabotaging the team.
All right,
and
thanks, Cy. All right. I'm not going to do the conspiracy theories thing.
Yeah, Mike Brown definitely loved his job here in Sacramento, loved his team, had no interest in sabotaging the team at all.
That's not a thing that happened.
No, and he
Mike
did
Brown
not help.
badly wanted to beat Steve Kerr and the Warriors.
Oh yeah, badly. And yeah, he did not under any stretch of the imagination do anything to have the Kings lose that series.
I didn't. Here's the thing. And again, I see so many of you on the line right now. I can only have one on hold at a time. So I'm going to do my very best to try and get to all of you. So if you're on the line, please just hang out. But I didn't hate the initial point of like, hey, let's look at the GMs. And if there's some common thread with the GMs and moves they did or didn't make, But when we start going off into the Mike Brown was losing games on purpose.
Yeah.
I
I agree with him too. Like there was a point where like the guys that they brought in to lead this team do have a certain personality, and not only that, but the second guys that you bring in, the assistant GMs have had, there's a common thread with most of them outside of Peja. Peja's just like hanging out and bouncing ideas off of Vlade. But the other guys that they brought in, like, they like to climb.
916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. It's the Elk Grove Kia Talk Line. Don, you're on the Insiders. What's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? I know that this is a weird season for us right now as Kings fans, as we're grieving the loss of Fox. I know this is not the ideal move that any of us probably would have wanted. I don't think anybody's like, except maybe KC, is saying, yeah, we wanted Zach LaVine. But my question is to you guys, like, what's the next right move to add pieces to the team that we have right now? What are the moves that we need to make this roster competitive, but also like set us up for the future?
What was your name?
Tanner. My bad.
Tanner. Cool. Appreciate the call, Tanner. Thanks, man. No, Tanner's, on the right track in terms of kind of spinning the conversation forward.
Yeah.
Whether you think the De'Aaron Fox trade was good or bad, will ultimately be judged on what the Kings do this year, right?
I think, but I mean, you would hope that they would be judged on the way that it plays out over multiple years.
Sure.
Yeah.
But for me today, I've said it. You got worse. You didn't pick up any premium assets to do it.
Yep.
That's tough to call that a winning trade. But if they go to the Western Conference Finals,
hey, we were wrong.
It's going to be really hard to go, well, yeah, but the Zach LaVine trade was bad.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm open to having my mind changed. I would love it if the Kings just rattled off 10 in a row and everything looked awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But to that point and to Tanner's point, I think for that to happen, I think there's got to be more coming down the line here. And we've only got a couple of minutes, and I want to get into some of the names that have been thrown around.
Mm-hmm.
But Ty Windish, who covers the Bucks for Blue Wire Pods, he brought up the point that, man, the fact that nothing's been announced yet from any side, Bulls, Spurs, Kings, we're 16 hours into this and there's been nothing, means there might still be something going on.
Yeah, and that's what you're hoping right now, that there's going to be something else that's going on with this team. And it's really difficult. So basically, what they acquired as part of the Kevin Huerter swap to the Bulls is called a traded player exception, right? So a TPE, you hear these all the time. And it's a big TPE. It's $16.8 million, right? And what that means is that Kings can use that to go out and try to acquire another player. But before that happens, before a TPE is created, you can continue to add to this trade, which is what the Kings actually need to do at this point. So it's complicated, and we should probably get into it after the break. But I would say that guys like Cam Johnson, guys like John Collins, maybe even a guy like Brandon Ingram could be added in some sort of larger deal, but it has to be done as part of the larger deal, because once the traded player exceptions are created, they're limited to that dollar amount, and they can't be combined with a player. They can't be combined with another traded player exception or a mid-level exception. So it becomes like a lot more complicated.
Sure.
But we probably need a little bit more to stretch our legs and talk about it.
Okay. So what's next for the Kings? We can get into that. We're going to give something away to James. What are we going to be giving away?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. Me personally, I'm very honest. I've been married for a long time. I've been married 25 years.
You are honest about that.
I absolutely I opened the door and let people know I'm a big flower guy for my wife, and we've got Valentine's Day just around the corner. And I know most of the guys that are listening to this, you do the same thing that guys do. You go to the flower shop I mean, you don't go to the flower shop. You go to the grocery store at 5 o'clock on Valentine's Day and you rummage through whatever's left. But we have a super, super exciting partnership that we're doing with Strelitzia Flowers in Davis, California. ESPN is excited to give away, to give you a chance to celebrate all kinds of love with this Valentine's Day with Strelitzia Flowers. You have a chance to win 1 dozen long stem roses with delivery, and they hand deliver everything, courtesy of Strelitzia Flowers. To enter, all you have to do is listen to the Insiders with me and Kyle, and listen for a code word. Go to the ESPN.com page. You'll see a big thing for Strelitzia Flowers. We're going to have a code word in just a little bit, but you can also go there now to the StrelitziaFlowersCompany.com and use the code word radio 224 for $10 off any purchase of $100 or more. Go check it out.
Yeah, go get some flowers, and we'll talk what's coming up next for the Kings now that they've traded De'Aaron Fox. Are there other moves on the horizon? We'll discuss it next. He's James Hammond Comments, and we're the Insiders, sponsored by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320 and Sacramento Sports Center. Clear.
Kyle, I think that's an option. You could probably do this. You could probably send Ed Flowers to Monty and Wes. Just go to Strelitzia flowercompany.com. See? Exactly. This is a good question. I don't know. I mean, yes, because they had a competitive team around Sabonis last year and the year before, but I'm not sure. Like on the fly here, it's going to be like crazy. Strelitzia. Somebody asked me to spell it. Strelitzia. Strelitzia. And they're super cool. You all right over there?
Yeah.
You're fighting.
It's just these headphones. It's just all cord.
It's all cord.
I could go sit.
You can replace that with a different.
I'm so far away from the microphone right now. I am.
Kyle can almost get to the door.
My headphones are plugged in
with his headphone cord.
It's outrageous.
I wonder if you went over the top of the counter, if you could make it to the door. You might be able to reach. 2 minutes.
Oh, not quite. I can reach the door.
We have no idea, Brett. You know we don't know if there's going to be a Monty presser or not. Come on now.
What does this mean?
Yes, Scout Recycler. If the Kings tank, they can keep their pick this year. Absolutely. It is top 12 protected this year. And a great draft. Yep. I can get into the trade exceptions, but my friend Kyle here says that we need to be cautious with giving too many numbers, and I agree. I can do it here on the break, though, if you want.
Yeah.
The Kings now have a TPE of $16.8 million. They also have a 6.6, a 5.9, and a 4.7 trade exception. 6.6 is from Sasha, 5.9 is from Chris Duarte, 4.7 is from Jalen McDaniels. Weird that the Kings only seem to trade with the Spurs. Not sure why that is, but bygones. Also, they have their mid-level exception at $12.8 million. The problem that the Kings have is that they are 14 million below the first apron and 10.5 below the tax. So they can't use the entirety of a $16.8 million trade exception. Again, trade exceptions are very specific. You cannot add a player salary to a trade exception. You can't add multiple trade exceptions. But what you can do is trade for multiple players in the same deal with different trade exceptions. So I don't know if that makes sense. If you have a player that makes $15 million, you can trade a trade exception for that guy. If you have a player that makes $5 million, you can trade another $5 million, $6 million trade exception for that. So you can, as part of the same deal, you can acquire multiple players on different trade exceptions.
Come back.
Cool.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Elk Grove Kid Talk line is 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Caller I see on hold. We'll get to you momentarily. James, you mentioned last segment we had some flowers to give away.
Yeah.
We are also going to hook you up with a Jiffy Lube gift certificate.
Yeah.
And an exclusive Insiders hoodie that you can only get if you either work here or win this contest. So, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go to ESPN1320.com. You can go to jiffylube.com to find the location nearest you, but you won't find the contest page. Go to ESPN1320.com. You're going to see the Jiffy Lube contest page. Today's word is Fox. F-O-X. That's going to be our code word for today. So if you enter that at the contest page at ESPN1320.com, you'll be entered to win a $50 Jiffy Lube gift certificate, which is great value, and an exclusive Insiders hoodie brought to you by our friends at Jiffy Lube that you can only get through this contest. So entered now at ESPN1320.com, code word Fox. That's what we're doing today.
There it is.
Typically we do something related to the game that happened. I didn't want to do something from the Oklahoma City game, to be totally frank. I didn't want to do it.
No, it was not a good game.
I put that game out of my mind almost immediately.
I did not want to watch that game at all after the first quarter.
Where
they give up 82 in the first half.
Yeah.
And then didn't somebody give up 91 in the
Yes.
first half?
Dallas.
Oh, man.
After trading Luka. They gave up 91 points in the first half to the Cavs. 91. That's so many points.
That's so many points.
That's like a game's worth of points.
Yeah.
And a half.
That's wild.
Insane. But that's what happens, man. You say it all the time. The trade deadline affects these dudes. Whether you think it should, whether you think it shouldn't, it does.
Oh, yeah. And don't for a second think that most of the players didn't know that something was on the table. Like we knew on Saturday that things were building towards a potential trade. Knew all day Sunday. You hear the Kevin Durant stuff right now that the Suns are fielding offers for Kevin Durant. Just so you know, heard that rumor on Saturday that the Kings were trying to get into that conversation to see what they could do and see if they could be part of that, as opposed to a guy like Zach LaVine. But it didn't work out. They didn't have the assets to do it, and so they moved on.
916-909-1320. 916-909-1320. Again, if you call and it just rings, nothing against you. We just don't have a call screener.
Yep.
So it might just ring for a little bit, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Right now, we're going to get to Don. You're on the Insiders with Kyle and James. What's up? Hey, Don, go ahead. We're talking to you.
Hey, how's it going, James and Kyle? I just had a question for you both. Obviously, shout out to Fox. Great player. Been an entire life cycle with him as our leader. I just wanted to talk about the future state of the Kings. I know you guys are going to go into some players out there, but a lot of the names listed so far have been bigs. And I just want to know, with getting rid of McLaughlin and now only having 3 guards, who's going to be the primary ball handler? And do we trust Monk in that role?
Good question. Thanks.
I trust Malik Monk to be a top 12 NBA point guard. Like, that's where I'm at with Monk. I mean, since he's moved into starting lineup alongside another major ball handling, like ball dominant guard, he's averaged like almost 20 points and like almost 7 assists per game. I think those numbers can go up. He does need like more help. like we keep
Yeah.
talking about. Like the way that assist numbers go up is typically because your teammates hit shots. The Kings don't
Get
have
out of town.
teammates
What?
that hit shots. They don't, as of right now. There's like enough problems. The Kings have had plenty of problems hitting shots this whole season. Yeah. So I think Monk is the guy. You don't really have a backup.
Monk's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. LaVine's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. DeMar DeRozan's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. Like you have to start running a lot of offense through Domas still.
Yeah, you got to pick and roll the
a little point center action.
Yeah.
So to that end, Jonas Valanciunas is the name that comes up a lot, just because the Kings need better. Like the Alex Len minutes are just a disaster
at
nightly.
this point. Yeah,
that's not a thing anymore.
Mm-mm.
And Valanciunas is a player that if they want to mess around with him and Sabonis on the floor together, I think you can try that out. And he's available for second round picks, which, as we know now, the Kings have in droves.
Yeah.
So I think that's why his name has come up. But it sounds like Cam Johnson, John Collins are not off the table necessarily.
No, and that's what I heard over the last like 24 hours, that as soon as this deal got like pretty much finalized, and we're seeing it right now, even like Keith Smith from Sport Track, right? Keith Smith just said the fact that the Spurs Kings Bulls trade hasn't been made official could be an indication that the deal might get expanded. Okay, so again, we talked about this a little bit at the end of last segment, this $16.8 million trade exception. The problem with the $16.8 million trade exception is, again, you cannot add player salaries to it, right? So to get to Cam Johnson's $22.5 million, you can't add money to it. That's not the way it works, right? You can't add Trey Lyles' salary to it. But what you can do is, before the other trade is finalized, you can add the Nets into the trade, and then they can be part of the deal. And so then you can actually add in player salaries into that deal to make the money work. So again, right now, the reason why there's a $16.8 million trade trade exception is because the Kings are sending out Kevin Huerter and not taking back anything from the Bulls, right? So now there's a way to work this deal where player XYZ goes to the Nets, and now all of a sudden the Kings do have like a couple of extra unprotected first round picks. They've got the Spurs 2027, they've got the 2031 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So if the Nets want to trade Cam Johnson right now, you want to combine that into this bigger trade before the trade call is made to the league and it's finalized. And that would be something that I could see the Kings doing. I know that, like, from what I've heard, they not only have they called the Nets, but there's also a possibility of, if they can't get Cam Johnson, maybe they can go back to the John Collins trade. Again, it's going to get complicated, but players have to go out. The Kings are hard capped at $178 million, and I think that's even come down to like 170. I mean, like basically 174 million, because there's 4 million in player incentives that count against the hard cap.
I see.
So right now they're 14 million under the hard cap, and they're 10.5 million
under the tax.
Under the tax, and that's according to Bobby Marks from ESPN.
Okay.
So again, they can work in players into the deal right now.
Right.
But if the trade is called in, you have a $16.8 million trade exception. There's no way to get Cam Johnson. You can't take that trade exception and expand it at all. So any hope of getting Cam Johnson, it would cost you. You'd have to go figure out a different route to come up with $20-something million in salary, which, becomes really difficult because Kevin Huerter's salary is no longer on your books. So you don't have that salary to trade. And that's kind of where this all comes full circle. Can you add in another team, have some of these pieces go different places, and all of a sudden the Kings can yield maybe one or two other players that they were looking at before.
Right.
And that's something that they're going to be working the phones here. And there's going to be a time limit, because these other teams, the Spurs, like the Bulls, they're going to want this deal done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want to get the players to come in and take their physicals, and so they're available to play in the coming days.
Yeah.
And, again, I think players have a 48-hour window.
And the Kings, by the way, should be wanting to get this deal done too, so they can get Zach LaVine in the building.
Yeah.
It's not like they're sitting comfy in a playoff spot right now.
Oh no, they play tomorrow against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Is Zach LaVine's original team. They play
Yeah.
in Minnesota, and you would hope that, like, if a deal gets done today, there is a possibility Zach LaVine could suit up tomorrow. But it's complicated. And you might be looking at these players, most of the players in this deal, because it is a multi-team deal, not playing until later in the weekend.
I'm focused more on the important aspects of this trade, and that's what it means for the Kings when it comes to Underdog daily fantasy, because Underdog's pick'em game is super easy. It's the easiest way to, for me, enhance the sports watching experience. I'm gonna have so many lineups. Like, I was already locked into the big game, but when the Chiefs and Eagles face off, I'm gonna have 6 different lineups put together. All you have to do is pick 2 or more player stats. You pick higher or lower on those stats, passing touchdowns, rushing attempts, receiving targets. You know how stats go in the NFL, but they have all your favorite leagues, all your favorite players. I've got a Kings one built tonight. We'll go over Kings lineup built for tonight. We'll go over that in a bit. Underdog is the best place to play. Pick them, download the app, sign up with promo code KyleM, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code KyleM. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned user play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. All right. How do the Kings move forward? Who's involved? Could the roster look a little better after the trade deadline? We'll talk about it next. That's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. It's ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
Oh, and of course, they do play tonight. My bad. I lost an entire 24-hour window of my life, just so you guys know. Yeah. So the Kings play in Minnesota tonight. There's no way those guys play in Minnesota. No way. So, yeah, my bad. And I don't think anything that happens in the next couple of days is like expect them to be a little off and a little weird. And I would not expect a bunch of wins here in the next, 48, 72 hours. I love Kyle's whiteboard today. At least they didn't get Zach Collins.
Yeah, we're finding silver linings, baby.
That's right.
All right. The puffy vest was an accident. This is just I have like 12 outfits, and this is one of them. It just happened to be the rotation today.
That's funny.
It's my fault.
I don't know that Collins doesn't want to be here. Like somebody just said, not confident in Collins because he does not want to be here.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the ESPN 1320 Insiders. Get ready for the most up-to-date sports news and talk with the ESPN 1320 Insiders.
Hour number 2. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Matson. We're rocking with you until noon. Then we'll hand it off to D-Lo and KC. Our show should be a ton of fun today. We're trying to spin the De'Aaron Fox trade forward a little bit. We're trying to figure out if there's a way that by 12:01 p.m. on Thursday, the deadline is noon. So if at 12:01 p.m. Thursday, you can look at the Kings roster and confidently say, oh, you know what? I think they might have gotten better. I think I like their chances now more than I did, despite the fact they traded the face of their franchise. All in all, they're in a better place now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's an opportunity to do that here. You just mentioned that Cam Johnson is still on the table. They still have the assets to make that happen. John Collins, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there is it those two?
Well, I mean, I think those two are the pieces that you would combine into a bigger deal here, right?
Both?
No, one
Sorry,
one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the types of pieces that you could combine into this deal.
I see.
But like that doesn't mean that there aren't other trades out there.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what you want to do. Like, I think everybody knows that Brandon Ingram is probably not long for the New Orleans Pelicans, right? And that his agent has been working alongside the Kings for the last week trying to figure out the De'Aaron Fox situation because Fox and Ingram share the same agent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a possibility that you could make a run at using DeMar DeRozan's salary and, other things to go, because you can see that like DeMar DeRozan at $24 million, Trey Lyles at $8 million, that puts you at $32 million. That puts you in the ballpark of Brandon Ingram's $36 million salary. Now, Brandon Ingram's on an expiring contract, and you'd need to know whether or not he would re-sign and also what that deal would look like. So could you use some of your draft capital, all that stuff? Would the Pelicans be willing to take on an extra year of DeMar DeRozan? Those are questions that you could always ask. But I think everybody has kind of seen the DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine pairing, and like it kind of fizzled out after a certain point with the Bulls. And so, like, why not? I'm not saying that that's something that's going to happen, but like that's something that, again, if all options are on the table, which they should be at this point, you just traded your franchise player, and your team got older, and you just even made this tight window that you already had even a little smaller. Then you have to consider all of these things. So I would say that, again, the Kings are going to run around trying to get deals done quickly. We do know that they're trying to be aggressive, that they're trying to figure out what it is that they want to do moving forward. But like, look, you still have gigantic holes in your rotation right now as we speak. And not only that, you don't even have enough rotational players to make this thing work.
Right.
So like this is going to get tough unless Isaac Jones is playing 30-something minutes or 24 minutes a night, which,
and
I'm here for it.
If you're not making any more moves, if this is it, then empty the G League bench. Whoever you think might be a rotation player for you next year. Isaac Jones, cool. Here's 25 minutes a night.
It's called capture the flag. That's what the kids on the street are calling it.
But that's the problem. Is they're not like the Kings don't suck. They have too many wins to be part of that already. You have teams in the NBA right now. The Kings could lose out. The Kings could go, let's see, they're 48. So what is that, 34 games? So they could go 0-34.
Okay.
They will finish with 24 wins. The Jazz, the Pelicans, the Wizards, the Hornets, none of those teams, that's 4 teams, are not finishing with 24 wins.
Yeah, that's tough.
Not even close.
That's
Brooklyn
wild.
might not even get there. Brooklyn has 16 right now. Like Brooklyn might not get. So you can't tank all the way.
No.
And you think Domantas Sabonis is going to tank?
No, not at all.
DeMar DeRozan's certainly not.
Nope.
So this is I don't. This is
no. It's
if
tough.
If there's not additional moves made, there is no spinning this trade deadline as some like secret positive for the Kings.
No, I agree with you.
No matter what you think about De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
No matter, you could be like, I hated that guy. Okay. You could think that he had both feet out the door and was buying a house in San Antonio, whether he got traded or not. You could think, okay, that's fine. But if this is it, and you've now gotten a worse player without addressing any of your major roster flaws.
Mhm.
That's not. There's no spinning that.
No, I totally agree. So I want to. There's two other things that happen here.
Please.
Number one, the Kings did get another player in the transaction. They got CD Sissoko. He's a second-year player out of France. He played for the G League Ignite a couple of years ago, and then was drafted, I believe, with the 44th pick in the 2023 NBA draft. I reached out to Pete Youngman, friend of the show, who, of course, was the trainer for the Ignite during that time here, and I asked him about CD Sissoko, and he said, "Salt of the earth, a pleasure to work with, eager and willing to work to keep improving his game. Like a lot of guys, he just needs an opportunity." And Pete said, "We're more than welcome to use that quote on the air." And so, like, again, the one problem with him is he hasn't played hardly at all. And actually, like, in total, he's basically over his 2 years has played the equivalent of 3 hours and 15 minutes of NBA action. He's at like 195 minutes of play. And so it's tough. We also did some like digging around a little bit. There's a lot of weirdness about his height and weight.
Really odd.
Very odd, because Basketball Reference is not usually wrong, but he weighed in at 6'5.5" and 226 pounds at the combine. According to the San Antonio Spurs media guide for this season, they list him at 6'6", 220. He's a good size, strong built individual. But again, just like experience is the problem. He's not a great shooter. Just, probably more of a defensive minded guy. But again, he's only 20 and he has very, very little basketball experience. And the other thing is, this trade opened up another roster spot. The Kings are down to 13 roster spots at this point, including CD Sissoko. So I would expect that, again, Isaac Jones is up to, I think, 38 games on the active roster. He's only maybe 39. He's only got like 11 or 12 more games that he can play. And I expect them after the deadline to do something like upgrade him to a regular roster spot. But you don't do that until all these other transactions are done.
Sissoko shooting 28% from three in the G League for his career, 46.1% from the field. He averages for his career in the G League, 14.6 points, 3.8 boards, 3.2 assists in 29 minutes a night. So not a rotation player right now. Can he play for Stockton?
Yeah.
Do the rules allow that?
Yep. He can go down to Stockton. That's where I expect him to.
That's where I imagine.
I expect him to be assessed in Stockton for the next couple of months and see what you got. And he's one of those. I mean, he's on a two-way. Not on a two-way. He's on a like a second round. That I think it's a second round pick.
I see.
Like exception that they created that Colby Jones signed under. So again, he has no guaranteed money at all for next year.
916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. I've got a bunch of people on hold. Thank you so much for your patience. Don, you're on the Insiders. What's up, man? Hey, Don. Bo.
There we go. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. What's up, Bo?
I know you guys got the Don going on.
All right, my man.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was waiting for Don. I was like, but there's 20 of us. A few things. Hopefully you guys can keep up. Number one, my Curry Foxes are now retro. Only wore them to like 4 or 5 games before they're retro.
Love that.
So there you go.
That's interesting to have a retro shoe and you've only had them for 2 weeks. Number two, I'm on the side of loving this just because it's dreadful to go to games knowing you're not going to be competitive. And I do think LaVine, the contract's not great. It's only 2 years left after this year's completed. I'm not mad about that. I think that we can play the similar style of basketball with LaVine. And I think he'll fit in great. So I'm not panicking about that at all. James, I always laugh because when I'm watching the show and listening to you, we always disagree. We'd have a great conversation. The one thing we do agree about, it's hard to replace our talent in Sacramento. I totally agree with that. So I'm a little bit nervous on our future. Our drafts are hit or miss. So we'll kind of see where we go from there. But I'm super excited to see this core for a little bit. And a few players, I'm not so keen on like just throwing in the John Collins or the Cam Johnsons. I actually like the smaller players like a Caleb Martin or like a Jonas Valanciunas. I think Jonas Valanciunas would turn it. I think that we would be sneaky if we got J Val to go in there. And he could just hit people around, man. I think it would be fun to watch. So, yeah.
Thanks, Bo.
We'll
Appreciate the call. I don't think the shoes are retro.
I kept up. I didn't think I would, but I kept up.
Yeah, I don't think the shoes are retro. I think he's still going to wear the De'Aaron Fox Curry brand shoes.
Yeah.
So you still wear them. You still rock them. I'd still wear them.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know. It's like he was mean on his way out.
No, I don't wear player shoes. Actually, he did
Well,
release
you
this.
don't.
He did release a statement.
He did.
De'Aaron Fox
on the internet.
did.
Do we have that?
I do. I can't quite find the words to express what I want to say, but thank you. Coming in as a 19-year-old kid and leaving as a 27-year-old man, I'm grateful I got to spend the beginning of my young adulthood here. The love for the city is unmatched. For the to the fans, y'all deserve the best. I wanted to end my career here and never expected it would end this way, but I'll always be grateful for your support. Thank you for the love you've shown me and my family. Sacramento will always hold a special place in my heart. Fox.
Cool.
Yep.
There it is. It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
All right.
Good dude.
If the rotation is Monk, DeRozan, LaVine, Murray, and Sabonis.
Yep.
With Keon Ellis, Cam Johnson, and Jonas Valanciunas coming off the bench. Are the Kings better post-deadline than they were pre-deadline?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, just because you added the wing depth and the size on the front line.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you can get like, I mean, you're hard capped. So every deal that you have to do has to be very cautiously created.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Vivek Ranadive has not shown us that he's willing to go into the luxury tax at all. And so you got like 10.5 million to play with right now. And there are ways to create other space.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen the Kings do it multiple times. They have all these second round picks now. Maybe they can get someone to take on a player for second round picks and stuff.
Yeah.
But there isn't a lot of like spare change hiding.
Right.
So making multiple deals is very difficult, even if you have a trade exception that makes sense. Right.
Man.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even do that if they wanted to. So they are going to add one additional player if they add anybody.
No, I mean, there's always a possibility that there are other players thrown in a deal that could actually end up helping you. Like there's possibilities of additional pieces coming back, but I would say that it's probably like it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to do multiple players.
It is so difficult to be optimistic with the Kings front office. We can sit here and go, well, they still need to do this. They've needed to.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people should be. It's just you want to be optimistic and think that they can do something. But again, like De'Aaron Fox said it very, very clearly in his piece here, you know, he said, I wanted to end my career here and never expected it would end this way. He did. And even like he hasn't sat here and said, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. What he said is, get me help or get me out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And they chose, instead of getting him help, to get him out of here.
Yep.
And again, they chose a player who's 3 years older, who has a long history of injuries, and who makes $9 million more a year, and instead of him, and then assets. And I think we get to a point where the Kings had got everything is self-created. All of their woes are self-created with their pick situation. But they got to a point where they didn't have the assets to go do the deals that they need to do. And that's a tough place to be in. And
that's it.
I just did not think that it would require you to trade De'Aaron Fox in order to get the assets that you might need to go get some other trade done.
So this is the I don't know if irony is the right word. It's like there's a chance the Kings add the help that De'Aaron Fox was looking for, but only after trading De'Aaron Fox. And someone pointed out to me, like, oh, well, now they have the assets to do that. And it's like, yeah, right. That's the issue. Is that they had to trade their best dude to acquire assets to just get depth. That doesn't compute. In an NBA where you've got teams like the Spurs and the Rockets and Oklahoma City and Utah who just have picks to burn. You didn't have a little. You didn't have a small amount of draft capital to go get anything. That's the largest problem to me.
Yeah.
And that's, zooming out away from the De'Aaron Fox deal. That's the biggest issue here. Whether you like the Fox deal or not, whether you liked Fox or not, whether you like Zach LaVine or not, the fact is we're still sitting here and the Kings have the same roster issues, and the only way that they were able to acquire assets was via a De'Aaron Fox deal.
Yeah.
That's bad management.
And the collection of picks and stuff that they got back, the draft capital they got back, very minimal. Man. Like, that's not exactly what you expected at all. So
more of your calls coming up next. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. We've got stuff to give you, and we'll continue dissecting the De'Aaron Fox trade. We also got to talk about the fact that Luka Doncic plays for the Lakers now.
Yeah, that's not weird.
What the hell? What a weekend. James, Kyle, Jiffy Lube, ESPN 1320.
Yep. What's going on, everybody? Okay. I've seen this. Okay, so I'm going to answer this really quick. Jim Garfinkel, what capped the Kings at the first apron? Did the sign-in player use more than tax player? Okay, what capped them is that DeMar DeRozan was acquired via sign-in trade. And when you acquire a player via sign-in trade, it hard caps you at the first apron. And that's why they are hard capped. It's because of the transaction that they acquired DeMar DeRozan in. It's a rule to limit teams from being able to trade high-end players and circumvent the cap to go way above it. But that's why they're hard capped. And this is something I keep seeing. You can say Vlade didn't leave the Kings with much, but he also didn't leave the Kings with a bunch of dead weight and a bunch of horrible contracts or anything else. Realistically, Vlade made plenty of mistakes. The 2018 draft, where he drafted Marvin Bagley, will go down as the worst, one of the worst moves of all time. He also did not have a 2019 first round pick because of a trade to clear up salary cap a couple of years earlier. But at the end of the day, he also didn't put the franchise in such a bad spot that they couldn't have rebuilt. Look around the league. And look at teams that were, like Monty McNair took over this team, in 2020? Teams that have been able to recover and turn things around. The Kings didn't have debilitating debt. They didn't have debilitating contracts. To be honest, they didn't have a Zach LaVine contract until whenever the deal was final. They haven't had that you can't move. So yeah, I mean it's tough, but again, Vlade made mistakes, but like a reasonable general manager could have recovered from Vlade's mistakes, and not only that, but I would make the argument that that Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox did a good job of building out the 2022-23 roster that made the playoffs, and that's partially because they didn't have a bunch of bad contracts to get rid of. In the last year and a half, the Kings, this group, squandered 7 second-round picks. 7. And that's part of the problem. You don't have assets. You don't have assets because you traded your assets to manipulate salary cap stuff that may or may not have helped out. The deadline is February 6th at noon. That's the NBA trade deadline. So, what is it? Thursday at noon Pacific time?
Oh, hang on. Yes, Thursday noon Pacific. Come back.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Click that one before I was ready. James there, I'm Kyle. You want to give away some flowers?
Yeah, let's give away some flowers.
Valentine's Day is next Friday.
Next Friday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sneaking up on us.
And we're going to help you with that.
Yeah.
Because thanks to our friends at, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right.
Strelitzia
Flowers.
Mm-hmm. In Davis, California.
Out in Davis.
They've been in business for over 50 years. They started with the owner started selling flowers out of a bucket on the campus of UC Davis.
Wow.
Yeah, good. They've got a good origin story.
Love that.
Family-owned business.
And we are hooking you up right now.
Yep.
And now, you can keep these flowers for yourself if you want.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend giving them to somebody you love.
Yeah.
Whether it's a significant other, parent, grandparent, whoever you want to give them to.
Yeah.
Or you can keep them for yourself if that's the vibe.
Everybody loves flowers.
I want a dozen long stem roses. I'm keeping them for me.
That's right.
James, tell the people how to win.
Yeah, go right now to ESPN1320.com. You'll see on the landing page a big Strelitzia Flowers place to go click in and enter to win it's 1 dozen long stem roses with delivery, courtesy of Strelitzia Flowers. So again, go to the landing page on ESPN 1320, and the code word for today, Kyle, what is it?
Love.
Love. LOVE. And also if you're there,
Kevin.
There you go. I think Kevin Love. If you're not in the mood to just enter a contest and wait to see, it's probably a good time to go in and just shop. Go to Strelitzia Flowers Company.com. Strelitzia, STRELITZIA, Strelitzia Flower Company.com. Use the code radio 224 for $10 off any purchase $100 or more. Yeah, get your flowers early, people. Just order them now, so it's taken care of and it's over and done with.
Gonna be my move. There's nothing worse.
I'm with
than
you.
Friday when you get up, we're like, oh no.
And
then it's you and the homies down at your local grocery store.
And there's like
through
40 of us all standing
flowers.
there. Leftover flowers and card aisle that's just like disaster.
Get yourself some beautiful long stem roses.
Well, plus we all know that if you go buy flowers at the grocery store, they're going to last a couple of days. You go buy them, you get them from a real florist, like a bona fide florist. They just last way longer and look way more beautiful. So, yeah, go visit our friends.
Now we're gonna go visit the people on the phone line.
Okay, let's do it.
At the Oak Grove Kid Talk line, 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Mitch is in New Jersey. Mitch, your thoughts on the De'Aaron Fox trade?
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Good. What's up, Mitch?
Doing great.
Yeah, I'm not happy with this trade at all. You got to be kidding me. He was your best player. You had to trade. You didn't get your penny on the dollar there, dollar for dollar. If you're worried about giving up too much for Cam Johnson and Kuzma, why didn't we go after Luka especially, or even Anthony Davis? I'm sure if we drafted Luka, we would have found a reason to trade him too within 7-6 years. Always find an excuse not to do the right thing. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I think the problem is nobody knew Luka was available.
Yeah.
Nico Harrison, the Mavs GM, said yesterday they had one conversation. It was with the Lakers, and that was it. Because they didn't want word getting out and Luka requesting a trade and trying to force his way somewhere where the Mavs would get something less than Anthony Davis.
I totally get trading Luka at some point. I don't get doing it this way, the way that it happened.
That's it. It's the process.
Yeah. And if you're a franchise that has been watching him and his habits for the last, 6 years or whatever it is, there is concern. There's the concerns over his weight, the concerns over his conditioning, the concerns over his nightlife, the concerns over all of it, that you're worried. And look, he's already having injuries. The last couple of years, you're seeing the injuries kind of stack up. And a lot of it is because they don't think he's in great shape. And I don't think anyone thinks he's in great shape.
If that's what the Mavs internally are like, this dude we're never going to win with this guy, which seems kind of wild. But if
they made it to the finals,
if that's right, last year, not even 12 months ago, if that's your thought, you have to do more. They're just he's a one of one type of player.
Oh, totally. But when you hear that, there are rumors coming out of Dallas that, Luka's 6'6", that he's pushing 270.
Yeah.
That's a concern. He's listed at 230.
Yeah.
And even that is he's a big guy, but.
And there's this defensive effort was always really poor.
Oh, of course.
And I understand all that. I don't really agree with the idea of trading him, but the process has to be better.
Yeah, I mean it does, and for the Lakers, you say yes to that deal every second.
Yeah,
because it's not. I mean,
that feels like the Lakers low ball offer, and the Mavs just went, okay, great, yeah.
Yeah, I expected more.
There's no way the Lakers went Anthony Davis in a first is the best we can do.
Yeah, no Dalton Connect, no
no other first.
Yeah, well, they don't have other first. I think that's
2 to trade.
Oh, maybe they do. Well, they probably wanted.
And the Mavs had to throw in a second round pick.
Oh.
There's just no way that was the best deal available.
No. And when you hear 10-time All-Star for Anthony Davis, two things. Number one, I think, man, 10-time All-Star. Number two, I think, oh, that guy's going to fall apart any minute. They're for the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to be perfectly fine. Maybe 2. I don't know if it's going to last longer than that, but Anthony Davis, history of injury is also crazy. And so it's just tough to trade for a big man who's almost 32, who's, again, had so many seasons where he misses 30, 40 games.
What a weird deal.
Yeah. I mean,
the Lakers just fall backwards into another superstar player. Neat.
It was stunning, though. What,
I was floored.
I was sitting at a dinner party for Chinese New Year. Shout out to my friends. And we were sitting there, and I looked down, and I have notifications for Shams, so I knew it was real right away. And I went, "Oh my gosh!" And then it went around. My phone got passed around the dinner table. Wait a sec, that didn't just happen. And then our text thread was spectacular.
I drove home. Said this yesterday on the live stream. I was driving home from my folks' house. I always check my phone before I start driving because I don't look at my phone while I drive. Just make sure nothing crazy happens. Okay, nothing. I got 10 minutes to get home. 12 minutes, I think it takes me. And by the time I got home, I had 40 texts in 3 different group chats. Luka freaking Doncic got traded.
Mhm.
I think that's part of why I had so much trouble processing the De'Aaron Fox trade last night, is because we just saw Luka for Anthony Davis, and I think I was still trying to get through that.
Yeah.
I was still working my way through that one. Let's get to the Oak Grove Kid Talk on 916-909-1320. Dawn, you're on the Insiders. What's up?
I remember a lot of it. There's no way that was the best deal available.
Hello?
Yeah, hey, Don, what's up?
Hey, Kyle, first of all, did you hear what Rick Bucher said about De'Aaron Fox today on the Colin Cowherd show?
No, I didn't catch it today.
He said that De'Aaron, because the guy hosting asked him if he thinks that Fox and Wemba will take down the Rockets as a 6 seed, and he says Fox and Wemba are not ready for that, and that the reason that Fox was traded is because Fox does not come to play hard every night.
Thanks for the call. That was honestly that was one of the things when the Kings were struggling this year that we talked about on this show. Like, hey, is De'Aaron that dude? Mike Brown said it after De'Aaron got all mad against the Rockets and had a good game in that first game against the Rockets. They were going 1, and Mike Brown said he's got to find a way to be mad every night. It's kind of what he was talking about.
Yeah,
but I think that's why he's better suited to play alongside a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who is pissed off to win every night.
I don't think that we have ever said that, hey, De'Aaron Fox is a perfect player. I've never said that. Like, De'Aaron Fox has plenty of faults as a player, in the same way that Domantas Sabonis has plenty of faults as a player. But that doesn't change the fact that he's extremely good and that he's an all-star level player. And not only that, but he's a top 20 player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's consensus. Like, he is, even in the poll, the Ringer, top 100 or whatever that we go to all the time just to clown, he's always in the top 19, 20, 21, 22.
Yep.
Like, there's 450 players in the league, and he's always in that group. So that's how I look at players, as like, hey, where do they sit in the course of like a general consensus?
Fox was 19, by the way, in the last Ringer Top 100.
He was All-NBA 2 years ago. He was third-team All-NBA, but he also finished 11th in All-NBA voting, with Sabonis coming in 12th. I mean, he was very, very close to second-team All-NBA. Mm-hmm. I don't know where Zach LaVine is on their list, but I don't remember him being in the All-NBA discussion.
Zach LaVine is 44.
Okay. I mean, he's in top 10% of the league.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Brian, you're on the Insiders on the Oak Grove Kid Talk line. What's up?
Hey, I just want to congratulate Vivek Ranadive for getting his guy. It seems like it's been a long time coming. And, it kind of reminds me of the DeMarcus Cousins trade, with Buddy Hield being Mr. Ranadive's guy. And now he's got him. And you look at our asset chest versus other asset chests. The Bulls have been trying to trade this guy for 3 years, since they signed him. And now he's ours. We're so lucky to have him. And we're so lucky to have Mr. Ranadive running this team. And it'll be really cool when the GMs, because, we're the team with GMs,
sure,
get fired this offseason. And we can thank them for making this trade. Because, who are we? Just the fans, right? So, yeah, thanks, Vivek, and congratulations. You got your guy.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, then.
Anyone pick up a hint of sarcasm in that?
I felt that there was a chasm that I wasn't going to fall into.
A sarcasm? Honestly, that's okay. So, all right, let's crack open this can of worms. I know Brian was doing a tongue-in-cheek thing there, but given what I believe the fate of this front office is going to be, it does feel like this was maybe more ownership-driven than the GM or the assistant GM looking and going, this is what's best for the future of this franchise.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
It's just that, given what we know about how they've operated, this just doesn't look like them.
Well, given what we know, like, of the past of this, like, the Zach LaVine thing has been on the table for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Zach LaVine's, like, they literally came out last year and said that he would love to go to the Sacramento Kings and play alongside De'Aaron Fox. That was last year, like right at the beginning of the year. How much Zach LaVine would love to go join the Sacramento Kings.
Yep.
So, like, look, yes, like, Vivek has been a fan. I think some people forget that Vlade signed Zach LaVine to a 4-year, $80 million contract sheet, offer sheet, and the Bulls matched that years ago. Vivek was the owner then. Like, Vivek was the owner. Vivek was part of the, like, signed the offer sheet for Zach LaVine. Like, so this predates the Monty and West situation.
Right.
And on top of that, why don't Kings fans who absolutely love to do this, why don't you go back and look what Zach LaVine said after they matched? Just go ahead. I'm sure you'll find it. Like, Zach LaVine was very excited to go back to the Bulls. So, he's matured.
I have a question.
Okay.
If Zach LaVine was not on the table here, let's say the Warriors got the deal done and they traded for Zach LaVine, is De'Aaron Fox a Sacramento King right now?
Maybe. I don't know.
I kind of think he is.
I kind of think the Kings got to a certain point where they were super reactionary, and I didn't get that. Like, super reactionary.
But in the same way that we just talked about Nico Harrison, the Dallas Mavericks GM, going, "Hey, Anthony Davis is the best we're going to do, and if word gets out and he says he wants to go to Philly, like, we're not going to get anything close to Anthony Davis from Philly or any other team, so we just got to pull the trigger on this deal now." And you see the lack of return there. It sort of feels like that might have been the move here, where it was, hey, Zach LaVine's on the table. There's another team, Golden State, who is heavily pursuing Zach LaVine. We need to get this deal done now because there's not going to be a better player that we're going to acquire for De'Aaron Fox. So let's just do this now. And that's where, like I said, I know Brian, our caller, was doing a bit there.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's a lot of truth is said in jest. And it looks to me like, putting all the pieces together of everything you just laid out, starting in 2018 with that offer sheet for Zach LaVine, and how much Zach LaVine has just kind of been, like, in the Kings discourse for the last 3 years, that they went, okay, well, we're not going to be able to get Fox to All-NBA, and he's going to want out of here. So this is our best chance to get this guy that we have been trying to figure out how to get. So let's just do that.
Okay, so I would also point out that Fox has been very clear that he still wants to be in Sacramento. Like, there were two choices for Fox, like, at the end of the day. It was, he wanted to either go to San Antonio or sign long-term in Sacramento if Sacramento did the prerequisite things to keep him in Sacramento. They decided not to do those things, and they decided to trade him to where he wanted to go. So that's admirable. But if you're a franchise, the idea is to get the most possible. And, like, I heard, hey, so-and-so is trying to get greedy in the deal. Well, not greedy enough. Like, straight up, just not greedy enough. Like, that team has a bunch of really nice pieces hiding, a bunch of assets. And I get it, the Kings didn't have a bunch of assets. They now still have most of those assets, most of them. And so not only do they have De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, they also still have Stephon Castle. They also still have Devin Vassell. They still have Jeremy Sohan. They still have Keldon Johnson.
Julian Champagnie.
Like, you couldn't get Champagnie in the deal? Like,
you couldn't get, hey, who's not, is it Malachi Branham?
Malachi Branham. Nope, couldn't get him. And that's where I'm looking at this, like, okay, I get it if you want to make a deal with the Spurs, but Does anyone realize that the Spurs not only still have all of the Hawks picks, they have all but one of their own picks. They have other picks, and they have a roster with movable pieces that they can go get the next player and the next player.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why they're the Spurs.
Woof.
Straight
and they're
up.
in the West.
That's why they're the Spurs. And you're competing with them.
Sick.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool times. Good times here on the Insiders. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. The handoff with one of Damian Barling or Kenny Caraway. Maybe they'll both come in today. I don't know. He's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders. Sponsored by Jiffy Lube. This is ESPN 1320. Sacramento Sports Center. Sports Center.
Let's see.
I have no idea what I did to our program here, but wigging out.
That's not good.
These new times are going to take some getting used to. I think we've broken late every break today.
We have?
Yeah, like all but one.
Oh. Like
that one we got out on time. Never mind. We're good.
Yeah, the last one we were at 17. We have a new break schedule, people. See, Zach, did the Kings have zero leverage? No, they didn't have zero leverage. Like, they had every opportunity to go out and try to make the team better before this happened. David Matza, we will eventually hear from Monty. I don't think Wes will take the stage.
90 seconds.
Oh, there's Damian Barling.
Cardigan season continues.
Oh.
You need me to stick around? Damien's here, everybody. Say hi to Damien.
What's up, squad?
Just so you know, we are live on the stream right now. The chatty house can see and hear you.
New to this. Good to see everybody in here.
Okay, here we go.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
It's a handoff. James Ham, Kyle Madsen, and Damian Barling, D'Lo and KC coming up at noon right here on ESPN 1320. My feelings about the De'Aaron Fox trade, Damian, my feelings about the De'Aaron Fox trade have just gotten slowly more pessimistic as the night went on last night.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had our live stream and at youtube.com/ESPN 1320 and twitch.tv/ESPN 1320. And I was kind of talking myself into, okay, let's see, here's the path forward, the best player you could have gotten. Okay. And I was kind of talking myself into it. And then the further we got from the trade being announced, I think the more I dislike it.
Okay. I don't feel that way. I don't love this trade as a standalone, deal. All I care about is improving the basketball team.
Sure.
As a standalone way to improve the basketball team, yeah, this ain't it. Like this won't be enough.
Mm-hmm.
As a deal for De'Aaron Fox, like I don't have an issue with it. I know, we get our we work the trade machine and we can go to this website and we can tell ourselves that Castle and Keldon and all these different things work. And what we don't often do is go, San Antonio probably doesn't feel like they need to do that. Like San Antonio was essentially able to pull this deal without really trading anything.
Right.
They're trading anything at least of serious consequence.
Yeah.
And like good for them. Like they had like a certain level of control of this. I also think Sacramento had a certain target in mind. Would they have loved Castle and Keldon Johnson? Like I'm sure they would have, but I also think they wanted Zach LaVine, and this was probably their only path to getting him.
Right.
Now the crux of the issue is people don't like Zach LaVine, and that's fine. Like you're entitled to your opinion. He has to get to Sacramento. He has to perform well. He has to stay healthy. And I think Kings fans will change their mind. But I think one thing that has become increasingly clear, I just think we overvalued De'Aaron Fox across the league. I mean, this was a player who wasn't getting recognition by coaches for all-star bids. This is a player who didn't get a lot of national attention. So the idea that all of a sudden there was going to be this massive trade package out there for him, I thought was a little bit ridiculous. I thought that last week. I thought that when we started to hear details of what this potential trade might look like. And it became clear when we got word that San Antonio was not going to part with Castle in this deal. So again, you can work the trade machine. You can convince yourself, oh, this works. But that doesn't, in reality, that doesn't mean that the trade works. That doesn't mean that San Antonio has that desire. Your favorite line of all of last week, Kyle, the dozens of calls that Sacramento got in relation to De'Aaron Fox. That doesn't mean any of them were willing to give up multiple first-round picks or desirable first-round picks or any player of consequence. Because, again, this is a player who repeatedly had not been voted by coaches to be an all-star. The one time he made the all-star team, he wasn't even voted by coaches. They said Jaren Jackson Jr. deserves this spot and not you. It was one guy.
Okay.
It was one guy who made De'Aaron Fox make the all-star team. And that's Adam Silver. Adam Silver names the injury replacement. It was one guy that did it.
Yeah, but to say Jaren Jackson made the all-star team and De'Aaron Fox didn't, it's because the Kings are bad. It's because they're not a good team.
They weren't
right
bad
now.
that year.
Well, no,
I'm not talking about this year.
Okay, got it.
I'm talking about the year he made the all-star team.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm mixing it up. I thought it was Jaren Jackson Jr. that got it.
I think that's right.
Yeah, he was an injury replacement that year.
Yeah.
Which means the coaches, again, did not vote him in.
I thought you meant this year. I mean,
no,
this year is something totally different.
No, Domantas Sabonis should have been the all-star this year, with all due respect to De'Aaron Fox. Domantas Sabonis
no question.
should have been the Sacramento Kings all-star.
Domantas Sabonis should have been the all-star. No due respect to Jaren Jackson.
No.
I'm just not a triple J guy at all.
I actually really like Jaren Jackson Jr. I just don't. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, no, we're tapping in. We're tapping in on the All-Star break at the Chase Center to watch Alfred Sengun and Jaren Jackson. Give me a break, man. Like the league needs to decide what this game is.
That's it.
Yes.
Is this an all-star? Is this a showcase for television, or is this some sort of like coach's reward thing for playing good or being on a good team?
And are we going to say it's a good team thing and then allow a couple of guys who aren't good in, who aren't on good teams in, and just kind of ignore that? Or are we going to say it's a good team thing?
It is a good team. LaMelo Ball should have been an all-star.
Facts.
Like, look, yo, your audience wants to see him.
Yeah.
And you literally just like, yeah, F your audience. Adam Silver's running around here talking about changing the lengths of quarters instead of just saying, hey, it turns out the fans want to see this kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's play him. Hey, can you not say anything stupid for the next 4 days? But outside of that, go have fun. Like, let the kid play. Like,
I don't know.
200, what was it? 2 million, 3 million people wanted to see him.
Yeah.
It was like over
And you just
4.
said, no, I'm good.
Led the votes.
There in his position group.
Crazy.
But I'm not down on the De'Aaron Fox trade. Like I recognize what it is. If Monty and Wes and whoever runs this team is like, okay, see you guys at free agency, then yeah, this was a failure. This was a failure because you're not any further along than you were 2 days ago.
You're worse.
You're arguably, yeah, you might be worse. But and you're also a 500 basketball team right now with De'Aaron Fox on the roster.
Right.
So De'Aaron, I think, was the last guy to get hurt. Right? Didn't everybody play? Keegan, everybody missed games. De'Aaron was the last guy to miss games. And I think the first time he missed was the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he missed those.
So he played most of the games, and this is a 500 basketball team.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I just, at the end of the day, like you have choices that you make as a franchise, and like I don't see the value in the trade that they accomplished. I don't see the value in it. Like a Band-Aid solution in Zach LaVine at a huge amount of money that, like, realistically the Bulls couldn't move off of. They've been trying for 2 years to move off of that contract, couldn't do it. And it cost you your best player.
Because it costs so many different players, I think, to do that. Like to hit a contract like that, you have to have multiple guys making upwards of what? $16 probably million that you want to move on from?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Kings had one player who made 40 that didn't want to be here anymore and were able to execute it.
The other thing with Zach LaVine is
it's math. I don't even know that it's the player. It's math.
They couldn't give him away this summer.
No.
Who?
Zach LaVine.
The Bulls could not. No.
They couldn't give away Zach LaVine this summer.
What are you two talking about?
No, they tried to attach at least 1 first-round pick, and there are rumors they're willing to go up to 2 first-round picks.
So what does that look like?
How
do you you want to move off of his contract? How do you make that work?
No, I'm not criticizing. Like, they couldn't. They couldn't.
Right. You actually can't. Like you literally mathematically can't.
Right.
Like, I think James thinks he sucks and you can't trade him. I think what I'm saying is mathematically trading him is difficult unless you have a player like De'Aaron who you that's how you work him in as a third team.
No, I get that, but like Zach LaVine at $25 million is totally fine. Zach LaVine at $25 million would be great, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about like the bad contract that people, I don't know if the Kings want to pay that De'Aaron Fox contract when he gets his next extension. It's like, okay, well, you just paid Zach that. You did, because that's what he makes.
Yeah, but for 2 years.
After this year, yeah.
Well, De'Aaron would have been 5.
Yeah, I would prefer 5 years of a 27-year-old.
Well, I would have too, but he wouldn't have. He didn't.
Yeah.
And we can't change that. Like De'Aaron Fox,
you think it had, okay, so this is something we talked about earlier. You think it had reached the point of no return?
Yeah, I don't think De'Aaron Fox wanted to be here.
He didn't want to be here under this circumstance.
I think De'Aaron Fox knew entering the season if he didn't make All-NBA, he wasn't going to be here anymore.
Yeah. No, I get that. But I also know that if they would have done some of the things that they should have done leading up to this season, that there was a possibility that they were a top seed. And not only that, but there was a possibility that he was All-NBA. And I think it was very clear early in this season that they were not going to get there. And then when the Mike Brown thing happened and they decided not to have a press conference, and again, he gets thrown under the bus, that was like, okay.
And that's fine. Fire the front office.
Yeah.
That has
Thursday at 3 o'clock. The trade deadline is over, and the Sacramento Kings have announced Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox have been fired.
Yeah.
Alvin Gentry will sit in the front office chair curating vibes for the next 4 months because I don't know what you do in the front office other than sending your scout team out to watch college players
and vibing.
And vibes, and that's it.
The ultimate vibe
Love
guy.
that for our guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Hey, Vladdy's still on the roster. He's still on the payroll.
Okay,
So despite the fact that we have no idea how Sacramento is going to respond tonight in Minnesota, I've put together a lineup on Underdog using Underdog's Pick'em game.
Oh boy,
you pick higher or lower on 2-player stats at least. You going up to 1,000 times your entry. It's really that easy. Get signed up now in time for the big game. Chiefs Eagles going to have a ton of lineups built for that game. Here's what I'm rocking with tonight. I'm going Malik Monk higher than 7.5 assists. I'm going Domantas Sabonis higher than 41.5 points, rebounds and assists. Anthony Edwards, I'm going higher than 30.5 points.
Yeah.
Don't think the defensive effort's going to be there for the Kings tonight. DeMar DeRozan, I think he's going to get his shots up. I've got him higher than 23.5 points. Naz Reid higher than 2.5 3-pointers made. And Keegan Murray, I think we're going to finally get a little bit of an aggressive Keegan Murray higher than 12.5 points for Keegan tonight. That's what I'm doing on Underdog. It's the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with promo code Kyle M, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code Kyle M. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned to the play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Promo code Kyle is fire.
Kyle M.
Oh, even better.
Kylem.
It's good.
It's my rap name.
It's good.
Let's get
5
out of
Grammys.
here. You guys had 5 for 5.
5 for 5, baby.
D'Lo and KC coming up next. Can't wait. Should be a ton of fun right here on ESPN 1320. Until tomorrow at 10 a.m. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. Until tomorrow at 10, drink water, be nice people. Bye.